Imagine this. June 1314. A ragged force of just 6,000 Scots, hungry farmers, clansmen, and a handful of knights stands on muddy ground staring down 20,000 English soldiers. Heavy cavalry in gleaming armor, thousands of archers, one of the most feared armies in Europe. The Scots have almost nothing. No plate mail, few horses, barely enough food. Their king, Robert the Bruce, rides out on a small pony with only an axe. Victory looks impossible. Yet in 2 days, this tiny army will deliver one of history's greatest upsets. How did a single axe swing shatter English confidence? What invisible traps did Bruce set that turned the battlefield into a nightmare? And why would England's own king be forced to flee for his life? Stay with me. This is the story of Bannockburn. For decades, Scotland had been bleeding. Edward I of England, known even then as the Hammer of the Scots, had crushed the country's independence. He marched north, seized castles, forced Scottish nobles to swear loyalty to him on pain of death. Those who refused were executed, publicly, brutally, as a warning. One man tried to fight back, William Wallace. He raised an army of ordinary Scots, won stunning victories, but in the end he was captured, taken to London, and executed in the most public way possible. His death was meant to end resistance forever. Scotland looked finished. But here's what no one expected. A new figure stepped forward, Robert the Bruce. Bruce was no peasant hero. He was a nobleman with a legitimate claim to the Scottish throne. In 1306, he took a drastic step. He killed a rival claimant in a moment of rage. Medieval chroniclers describe it as a violent act inside a church, one that got him excommunicated by the Pope and branded an outlaw by the English crown. Most men would have fled or surrendered. Bruce did neither. He had himself crowned King of Scots anyway. The English laughed. A king with no land, no treasury, no real army, excommunicated, hunted. But Bruce refused to play by their rules. Instead of meeting the English in open battle, where their heavy knights would slaughter his men, he chose a different path, guerrilla war. He struck fast, vanished into the hills, recaptured one castle after another. Year after year, he wore the occupiers down. He burned what he couldn't hold, so the English couldn't use it. He turned the land itself against them. By 1314, almost all of Scotland was back under his control. Only one fortress remained in English hands, Stirling Castle. Stirling sat on the main route between the Highlands and the Lowlands. Whoever held it controlled Scotland's heart. Bruce's brother, Edward Bruce, had been besieging Stirling for months. Finally, the English commander inside made a deal. If no English relief army arrived by June 24th, 1314, the castle would surrender to the Scots. It sounded like a generous deadline. It was actually a brilliant trap. Because when King Edward II of England heard about the agreement, he couldn't ignore it. Letting Stirling fall without a fight would be a public humiliation. His father's conquests would look fragile. His own authority would crack. So Edward II did what any king in his position would do. He raised the largest army England had seen in years and marched it straight into Robert the Bruce's carefully chosen killing ground. But Bruce wasn't waiting passively. He had already picked the battlefield, and he had already prepared surprises that would turn English confidence into panic. In the next chapter, you'll see exactly how badly the numbers were stacked and why Bruce still believed he could win. Now, picture the two sides as they gather in June 1314. On one side, the English army under King Edward II. Medieval sources give varying numbers, but modern historians estimate around 13,000 to 15,000 men total, sometimes higher in older accounts. This force included 2,000 to 3,000 heavy cavalry, armored knights on massive war horses, the elite shock troops of the age. Add thousands of infantry and a strong contingent of Welsh longbowmen whose arrows could punch through mail at range. They marched north full of confidence. Edward II needed a decisive win to silence critics at home and prove his father's conquests secure. His men believed they faced rebels who had always scattered before proper knights. On the other side, Robert the Bruce's Scots. Estimates here range from about 6,000 to perhaps 7,000 or 8,000 at most. Mostly foot soldiers, peasants turned warriors, clansmen, a few nobles. Poorly equipped compared to the English, no heavy plate armor for most, limited horses. Bruce kept only around 500 light cavalry under Sir Robert Keith for scouting and quick strikes. But numbers weren't the whole story. Bruce had turned weakness into strength. He chose the ground with care, a narrow strip of land south of Stirling, squeezed between the Bannockburn, a small but treacherous stream with boggy banks, and the dense woods of New Park. The English couldn't spread out their superior numbers. Their heavy cavalry couldn't wheel and charge freely. Flanking was impossible. To make it worse for the invaders, Bruce ordered thousands of small pits dug across the likely approaches. Covered with branches and grass, these were hidden death traps designed to lame horses and throw riders in full armor. And then there was the schiltron. A schiltron was a tight formation of spearmen standing shoulder to shoulder, spears leveled forward, up to 12 feet long. Against charging knights, it became a wall of iron points. Horses refused to impale themselves. Riders couldn't break through without being skewered. Bruce had drilled his men to hold these formations steady, even advance slowly if needed. This wasn't just defense. Bruce had trained his schiltrons to move forward as offensive units, something rarely done before. The English expected the Scots to hide in the hills or flee at the sight of real knights. They were about to learn how wrong they were. But first came a moment that would echo through history. A single man against the might of England. In the next chapter, you'll see how one bold duel on the first day changed everything and set the stage for total disaster. June 24th, 1314. The English army arrives, dusty from the march, crossing into Scottish territory. Scouts report the Scots dug in ahead, but Edward II's commanders dismiss it. After all, Bruce has avoided pitched battles for years. Why stand now? The English set up camp south of the Bannockburn, planning to rest and scout better ground. But impatience brews. Some knights push for an immediate probe. That's when it happens. A young English knight, Sir Henry de Bohun, nephew to a powerful earl, spots a lone rider ahead of the Scottish lines. It's Robert the Bruce himself, inspecting his troops on his small pony, armed with just a battle axe, no lance, no heavy armor. De Bohun sees glory, a chance to end the rebellion in one stroke by killing the Scottish king. He lowers his lance, spurs his massive warhorse, and charges across the field. The Scots watch in stunned silence. Bruce could retreat behind his men, but he doesn't. Instead, he turns his pony and rides straight at the oncoming knight. De Bohun thunders forward, lance aimed to impale. Bruce waits until the last second, then swerves aside. As the knight barrels past, Bruce rises in his stirrups and swings his axe with full force. The blow lands true. Medieval chroniclers say it cleaved through helmet and skull in one devastating strike. The axe handle even shattered from the impact. De Bohun falls dead. His body hits the ground with a thud that echoes across the field. Silence hangs for a heartbeat. Then the Scots erupt in cheers. Their king, outnumbered, outmatched, has just felled one of England's finest in single combat. Morale surges like a wildfire. Men who were weary now feel unbreakable. For the English, it's a gut punch. Whispers spread. If their knights can't even take the Scottish leader one-on-one, what chance in full battle? This answers our first question. From the start, how did a single axe swing shatter English confidence? It turned Bruce from outlaw king into living legend, right before his men's eyes. But the day isn't over. As evening falls, English commanders debate in Edward II's tent. Some urge caution, wait a day, rest the troops, find open ground where cavalry can dominate. The men are exhausted from the long march, horses need forage. Others argue the deadline for Stirling is tomorrow. Delay looks weak. Edward sides with aggression. He orders the army to cross the burn at dawn and attack. It's a choice they'll regret. Bruce, meanwhile, uses the night wisely. He rallies his men around the duel's triumph, reminds them of the prepared ground ahead, the pits, the schiltrons, the narrow kill zone. No one sleeps easy. Dawn on June 24th brings the full storm, but Bruce's hidden plans are about to unleash total chaos on the invaders. June 24th, 1314. Dawn breaks over the Bannockburn. The English army stirs, crossing the stream in force. Infantry wading through mud, knights urging warhorses over boggy ground. Edward II leads from the rear, expecting a quick rout of the Scots. They advance into the narrow strip Bruce had chosen. The ground looks firm enough, but it's a deception. The heavy cavalry charges first, as always. Lances down, they thunder toward the Scottish lines, aiming to smash through and scatter the rebels. But here's what no one expected. The Scots don't break. Bruce's schiltrons lock into position, thousands of spears bristling outward like a fortress of steel. The first knights hit the wall, horses rear, impaled or thrown off balance. Riders in heavy armor crash down, struggling in the mud. Worse still, the hidden pits. Hooves punch through grass coverings, warhorses scream and plunge into holes, legs snapping, tossing knights like ragdolls. The charge stalls into a tangle of fallen men and beasts. Behind them, more cavalry piles up. Unable to stop, they collide with the chaos ahead. The narrow terrain turns advantage into nightmare. No room to maneuver, just a crush of bodies. English commanders call up the archers. Welsh longbowmen notch arrows, ready to rain death from afar. But the armies are too close now, entangled in the kill zone. Arrows fly, but many strike their own side. Friendly fire adds to the horror. Bruce sees his opening. He unleashes his 500 light cavalry, held in reserve. They sweep around the flanks, slamming into the exposed archers. Without night support, stuck in the mess, the bowmen break and run. Hour after hour the sun climbs. Heat builds under armor. Men sweat, gasp, collapse from exhaustion. The front lines fight desperately against unyielding spears. Behind, thousands push forward but can't join the fray, just adding pressure to the jam. Bodies pile up, forming grim barriers that fighters have to climb over. The air fills with shouts, clashes, the moans of the wounded. Then comes the turning point. Bruce commits his reserve, fresh troops from Argyll under Angus Og. They crash into the English flank, renewing the spear wall's push. At that moment, another force appears on the hilltop. It's the Scottish camp followers, servants, suppliers, armed with makeshift weapons, banners waving. To the battered English, they look like reinforcements, a whole new army. Panic ignites. Cries ring out, "They're upon us! Retreat!" The line cracks. Men turn, fleeing back toward the burn. Edward II's guards drag him away on horseback. He barely escapes as his standard falls. What starts as a withdrawal becomes a rout. Soldiers shed armor, weapons, anything heavy to run faster. Many plunge into the Bannockburn, swollen from rain. Dozens drown under the weight they can't discard. Pursuing Scots cut down stragglers. Medieval chroniclers report over 4,000 English dead that day, with even conservative estimates showing massive losses. Scottish casualties under 500. The field is left to the victors. This answers our next questions. What hidden traps turned the tide, and why did England's king flee? The pits and schiltrons broke the charge. Panic and the small folk illusion sealed the collapse. But Bannockburn's echoes went far beyond the battlefield. In the final chapter, you'll discover how this upset forged a nation's freedom. The sun sets on June 24th, 1314, over a field littered with the remnants of battle. The Scots stand victorious, but the cost has been high. Bruce's men round up prisoners, dozens of English nobles, knights who survived the rout. Their ransoms pour gold into Scotland's coffers, funding Bruce's fledgling kingdom for years to come. More than treasure, Bannockburn delivers a message. England's grip on Scotland is shattered. Multiple sources from the time report the English losses as catastrophic, with entire noble families wiped out. Bruce's tactics, the clever terrain choice, the pits, the disciplined schiltrons, prove that strategy and resolve can overcome raw power and numbers. It's the ultimate underdog triumph. A small, determined force turns the tide against a giant. In the months that follow, Bruce presses his advantage. He raids into northern England, forcing Edward II to divert resources. The English try invasions again, but the momentum from Bannockburn is gone. Scotland's fighters now believe they're unstoppable. The war drags on, but the end comes in 1328 with the Treaty of Edinburgh-Northampton. England officially recognizes Scottish independence and Robert the Bruce as rightful king. It's a peace born from that muddy field by the Bannockburn. Bannockburn wasn't just a battle. It became a symbol of freedom won through grit, of how intelligence beats brute force. It inspired generations, shaping Scotland's identity even today. We've seen how one axe swing ignited hope, how hidden traps and formations broke the charge, and why a king fled in disgrace. This upset reminds us, even against impossible odds, the smart and the bold can rewrite history. If this story of epic defiance fired you up, hit that like button, subscribe for more dives into history's greatest clashes, and drop a comment. What's your favorite underdog victory? Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.